Welcome to the ManTFup podcast, hanging out here in the Man Cave. I'm Kimmy B.
And Lenny.
Geez, Len, you sound super excited already to be shooting today's episode.
I'm all fired up.
You sound like it. He's all fired up. Give him 10 minutes. All right, guys, so before we go any further, remember, please like, subscribe, share, follow. We are absolutely everywhere. Been having a lot of fun engaging with folks on TikTok the last few weeks, definitely gaining some traction in that space, and I think people are just really interested in what Len's going to say next. But no, we've been getting a ton of comments and a ton of views, and it's definitely kind of helping, I feel like, find great conversation to have in the weeks following. Len, I would really like to talk about freedom of speech today. And I know that that's one of your, hot button items that you've mentioned numerous times throughout the ManTFup podcast. But I want to talk about it, I guess, more from the fact or from the perspective of, what is freedom of speech, and is it really being, quote unquote, taken away as many people would like to have folks believe?
That's a big open question to me. It's a very big open question, and in some aspects, they feel it is, even though we know all of these platforms are owned privately and they have the right to censor whoever they want because they're private companies.
Yeah.
I get that. But it also makes people feel like they're being silenced and other people are being heard over them. And people can't, most people don't realize that, Mark Zuckerberg is pushing the buttons at Facebook. So if he doesn't like it, it doesn't get posted.
It's not a Zuckerberg thing, though. Let's be very clear. And I'm not defending Mark Zuckerberg.
Listen, he's the first owner of a social media platform that came to my mind.
But there's community. What I'm just saying is that there are community guidelines to all of these. But let's rewind.
This is something that I'm very familiar with, community guidelines on Facebook.
Like,
you know what it says?
No, I get it. Before we jump into this, let's go back to what freedom of speech really is, because guess what? Community guidelines, not protected by freedom of speech.
No,
just for the record.
Yes.
So freedom of speech is our First Amendment, right? Our First Amendment right. So it's the big one. This was the first thing that these fellas decided to put down on paper. Then it was very important to them to protect, right? So freedom of speech, principle that supports the freedom of an individual or a community to articulate their opinions and ideas without fear of retaliation, censorship, or legal sanction from a government perspective, right? The government cannot retaliate against you. The government cannot censor you. The government cannot legally sanction you. Let's be very clear about that. What's written in the Constitution protects you from our government, right? Like, so when we talk about the Second Amendment right, that's the right that was given to bear arms. So hence the reason why folks like Len and other people are upset that the government would think they have the right to take away your guns, right? You can't get mad at people because people don't have the right to do that, right? Like your neighbor can't just come over and go, give me your gun, right? I don't like it, give me your gun. And it's the same thing with freedom of speech. Like with freedom of speech, I cannot like what you say, but I can't, the only thing I can do is be like, I don't like that guy. I don't like that guy. I don't have to invite him to my barbecue, right? So essentially, and the government cannot sanction you. Now there are certain rules that apply to freedom of speech: defamation, child pornography, inciting violence. There's like four, and even with that, there are still tests that you must prove in order to be legally sanctioned, censored, blah, 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 right? Like we saw with Alex Jones, the guy from InfoWars. Like he's been a big one. He's had $1 billion+ in settlements levied against him for attacking the parents of the victims of the Sandy Hook mass shooting, right? He spent the better part of a decade dragging these folks on InfoWars, spreading misinformation. They have been accosted on the street. They've gotten hate mail. Basically, he said that it was all a big farce. He said that they were lying, that they set the whole thing up, nobody lost any kids, like wild shit. And so now multiple courts have found against him and in favor of, these defendants. And he's never going to pay it. He doesn't have the money. He's spent all his money on legal bills. But I think that that's a great example. When we talk about somebody yelling, freedom is like, you can't just run around saying nonsensical, defamatory, libelous, things
Yes.
without there being some sort of actual legal recourse. But it took them a very long time and a lot of proof to prove it, right? It wasn't like the first time he said it. You don't think they were outraged? Of course they were, but there was nothing they could do. But it's very difficult to
he
take
started
away.
a movement.
You know what I'm saying? It's very difficult, actually, to take away someone's First Amendment right to freedom of speech. It's very difficult from a legal perspective to actually prove without a doubt or majority that whatever somebody said had a defamatory effect on your life. It takes a lot of money, takes a lot of time, and that's why most people don't move forward with it. And those are usually the cases that we've seen end up in front of the Supreme Court and things of that nature. And usually 9 times out of 10, the Supreme Court doubles down and protects the individual who said whatever was said's rights, because it's that hard to take it away. But if you let social media tell it, Len, we can't say nothing anymore.
Yeah, and that goes to people feeling that social media is a free platform to speak your mind. And it is to some extent, unless somebody doesn't like it.
Yeah. And
if somebody doesn't like it, they don't just not listen to you. That they go above and beyond to make a point that they don't like you, and to the point where somebody says, oh, yeah, you're right.
But guess what? It's not a constitutional right for you to have access to social media.
Nope.
Right? That's a private business, and private businesses all get to decide how they want to operate. We saw that during the pandemic, right? A lot of businesses up in arms. How dare you tell me what I can and can't do regarding masks, right? And we saw a lot of small business owners in particular.
And what happened in that situation?
I think businesses won out. Well, in Florida in particular, businesses won out. But to me,
the government made businesses win out, and the government put mandates on businesses.
But at the end of the day, the government did. But I guess what my point is with that argument is the fact that as a business owner, you should get to decide what you want to do, and then I, as a patron, can decide if I want to support your business, right? Like.
So if you go out there and you open an ice cream store and you say, I have the best ice cream in the world, I want everybody to taste my ice cream. Okay? They come to your store and you say, nah, you can't have any ice cream, you can't have any ice cream, you can't have any ice cream.
That's discrimination, though.
Why is it discrimination? Who's discriminating? They might tell me I can't have ice cream.
But why would I tell them that?
But why is it discrimination?
What does this have to do with free speech?
Because social media platforms are inviting people to speak their mind and have a place where they can have their ice cream.
But they also state...
And then they pick and choose whose ice cream they serve.
A better example would be, I'm inviting you all in, but if you read the fine print, I have a mask mandate. So if you show up to my ice cream store and you don't want to wear a mask, well, in the fine print there it said, I require all of my patrons to wear masks. So no, you can't have any ice cream. I'm not telling you, I'm not just discriminating against you. It said in the fine print, you had to wear a mask in order to come into my establishment. That's what social media does. There are rules and guidelines. Like you said, you're very, very aware of these things. It's actually part of the reason why you created your own platform. You wanted to have your own real estate so people couldn't tell you what you can and can't talk about. But with that being said, it's in the fine print. There are community guidelines. There are things that cross the line in some people's, eyes. Some stuff will go unvetted.
But have you ever read any of the community guidelines? Like, we just had one of our videos banned for harassment and bullying. Now, if you go to harassment and bullying, it is kind of, if you're doing this, this, and this, which clearly we are not doing in the video. So, if you go to Facebook's guidelines, it's against policy. Well, what policy is it against? It's against the policy. What policy is it against? It's against the policy. There's no specifics. See, that's the beauty of what they've done. There is no specific reason.
No, a lot of it is harassment, is bullying. I mean, a lot of it is
there is not one specific thing that Facebook can point to why they cancel somebody. Not one. There's not. We canceled you because you said this, and this, and it was against this policy exactly.
How did they cancel you? They took your post down?
No. We've been canceled on. I've personally been canceled on Facebook for before I ever said a word on Facebook because we put up a post that said, "Would you give your dog CBD?" A question: would you give your dog CBD? And it got posted. It got boosted from my personal account, so they banned me. So, what policy is that against? Promoting CBD. I wasn't promoting CBD. I wasn't promoting. It was a question.
You were, though, if you boosted it, weren't you? You were trying to boost. Isn't that promoting? Is boosting?
No, I promoted a post. I promoted a question. I wasn't trying to sell a product. I wasn't doing anything with it. It was a question.
But if you're spending advertising dollars, isn't that promoting?
Promoting what? A question?
Yeah, but regardless. So if you're spending advertising dollars, that is basically what advertising, I'm sure the word promotion is kind of in the definition of advertising. I'm just trying to say maybe that's the guise behind which they decided to cancel you. If you're putting advertising dollars behind something, you are clearly trying to promote whatever it is that you're putting those advertising dollars behind.
Clearly you would think that, except, in their policies and their Facebook advertising, albeit whatever, okay, there's nothing that says you can't do that. There's stuff that says you cannot sell CBD products, which we weren't. We were not doing anything like that. So if you have a guide over here that says you can't sell CBD products, fine. We're not selling CBD products. We're asking, all we're boosting it to is other eyes that you're not letting us see. We're putting it in front of dog owners. Yeah. We're picking a dog owner audience and we're putting it out there.
But had you posted that just as Lenny with no advertising dollars behind it, just on your personal page, clearly you would not have had the reach. But do you think that they still have banned or
maybe
canceled that post?
I don't know. They banned stuff for who knows.
I just feel like as soon as you put dollars behind things, that makes you a little bit more.
Any word, anything that is not liked, they can, and they don't have a specific policy.
And I get that that's frustrating, especially from a business perspective, because you're looking for answers in the sense of, I don't want to do this again. See, that's where they fall short, because if you ban somebody, explain to me why you ban me. That way I don't make the same mistake.
Yeah, there's no explanation.
Again, right? And I feel like that's actually culturally the same situation. When we talk about cancel culture, right? Like, to some people, they may not realize why what they said was offensive when they say something, right? And unfortunately, we're at a space where as soon as people get offended, it's all of a sudden, cancel this mother, right? Like, that's immediately where we go to with no explanation. Whereas if somebody took the time to engage in the conversation, which is why I've absolutely been loving, all the comments on a lot of our posts on TikTok recently, is because it gives you a chance. Sometimes 60 seconds doesn't do one of our 2-hour conversations justice. So things get misconstrued, and then it's on you to go in and kind of engage in those conversations, right? And some people are worth engaging with. I've also realized some people are not. But it's all good, and I take the time to do it. But unfortunately, in the big picture, that's one of the problems. We're not taking the time to do that. So when we talk about cancel culture and people start throwing around free speech and everything else, like, I just want to be very clear. Nobody is taking away, and you have to remove social media from it, because at the end of the day, social media is still a private company, right? Freedom of speech does not protect you from accountability in the private sector. Freedom of speech does not protect you from your neighbor being bullshit at something you said. Freedom of speech does not protect your business from losing customers because you made it a bigotous or, anti-Semitic or homophobic statement, on Facebook, or because you put up, a Trump sticker in your window, or you put up a Biden sticker in your window, right? Like, that free speech doesn't protect you from other people's opinions. For the most part, right? Not you're protected from the government when it comes to free speech, and that's why it's so difficult for the government to prove a case against somebody, you know what I'm saying? Or to really censor somebody. It's why even with the January, it's a long process. All of this is a long process.
Let me ask you this. And this is just a hypothetical, because it absolutely could positively not be happening in the United States. Do you think the government has any power over these private companies? Do you think that the government has any power?
I think the government
over,
is
over
I think they're
Facebook.
I think they
or
would like
Twitter or any of these
Listen
other
to me,
companies.
Linda. I think from a monopoly standpoint, I think whatever's protected by law, right? Like when you start to get into that monopoly space, like they've come for certain companies. They came from Microsoft. There was antitrust and things like that. I think they wish they had more control over these platforms. That's
And
the
you
reason why
really-
we have all of these, congressional hearings. Zuckerberg's been in front of freaking Congress more times than Nixon was, for God's sake.
Yeah.
More times than during McCarthyism when we were coming for all the quote unquote communists, right? Like Zuckerberg has literally been put on trial numerous times. Again, this is not,
Yeah, but
the
let me
ManTFup
ask you a
episode
question.
in defense of Mark Zuckerberg.
No, but do you think that fact that they've come after some of these companies and that they went after Microsoft 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Bill Gates kind of disappeared. And Microsoft is still what it was.
But other companies have come in, but there's more competition in the space.
Microsoft is still what it was 25 years ago, maybe more powerful. Okay?
But there's also more, but there is more. You don't agree that there's more competition in the market and in that space?
The point is that
Well, that was why they came from
the
them, 'cause
point
he had
is
a
that Bill
complete
Gates was a thorn in
monopoly.
their side, and now he's not. Why?
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
Why?
I'm not gonna get into. I don't
But
know enough information.
it's not
about
a conspiracy. It's just a
Well,
question.
You don't have facts though. And whatever you're
No,
trying to
you
spin,
don't. You
you're-
don't have
you're
facts.
pers-
It's my opinion.
Okay,
It's
so
my
So
opinion.
in Lenny's opinion, Bill Gates is in cahoots with the government.
No, it's my opinion that large corporations can be annihilated by the government, and if they don't
Fall in
kind of play in line with what the narrative is, they can be sanctioned.
But with that being said, though, then no, then I definitely don't agree with you, because the Senate, which is who Zuckerberg has sat, I think, most frequently in front of, is obviously a mix. So the narrative is mixed there, and I think that if that wasn't the case, if that was the case, if they had more control over Facebook, or if they were in it, I don't think our former president would have been banned from Facebook. I don't think, you know.
So I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Because I could speak from this one. So in 2010, we had the epidemic of oxycodone, right?
Yep.
So the DEA is an agency that's this big, right? Compared to the healthcare industry.
Yeah.
So what did the DEA do? They went to the largest distributors of these products and they said, we're going to stick a microscope up your ass if you don't start regulating what you're doing with these products. And you know what these companies did? They cut it the fuck off. They cut it off. You know why? Because in the scheme of these giant companies, that was 2%, 1%, less than 1% of their business. They didn't give a fuck. They just cut it off because the other 99% of their business is more important. So that is the government reaching into a private business and putting pressure on them to change. So if you can't see that the government has that kind of authority or power over private businesses in this country, which all the social media platforms fall into, which is why they're so up in arms about TikTok, because TikTok is not an American fucking social media. That's why they were trying to get it completely canceled from the United States.
You know who that was, though.
It doesn't matter who it was.
No, but it's the same people.
It was
yelling
the
about,
government.
But it's the same people yelling about free speech. No, it's not though. Like if you
Okay.
in this situation, the individual that was trying to cancel, like publicly as the face of the government trying to cancel TikTok, was the former president. Like that was a cross he was willing.
That's fine.
to die on.
But it's
So these are the same people yelling about free. So that's, I guess the bigger point is, once again, it comes back to hypocrisy, right? Like, so the same people yelling about constitutional rights and about freedom of speech is the same man who went and started his own social media company because he got banned from things, was the same one lobbying.
Let me ask you a question. You're
get rid of-
You're on social media. What ads for politicians are you seeing? What political ads are you
Actually
seeing?
not seeing a lot of political ads, which is
Or if you see a few, what are they Democrats?
Do I have a mix? I see. I get a mix though, because I mean, I click on a lot of, right-leaning things too, just so I know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not overwhelmed though with political ads. I'm getting more text messages, which is a violation of my rights. I feel. No, I'm like they're definitely blowing up my phones, and I'm not clicking. Listen to me.
There is big things with that.
I'm not clicking on any of the links.
Text messages are definitely highly regulated. Well, you can get in a lot of trouble for text messaging.
Well, I almost feel like though, in this day and age of scamming, I also feel like a lot of them are fraudulent. I feel like there's a lot of people trying to just snatch money from people under the guise of political affiliation.
Don't click on any links that you get text.
Well, that's what I'm doing. I'm deleting absolutely everything. So
unless it's from Dynamism Labs.
But you would have had to have signed up.
Yes, you would have had to have signed up. We don't text.
I get them too.
We don't text people unless you've signed up.
But and I'm not saying, Len, because I think I'd be extremely naive, borderline ignorant to say that our government doesn't wield power. But again, I'm speaking from a more not superficial, but from a lesser evil perspective, in the sense of just everyday people who love, in particular, when it comes to cancel culture, love throwing out that your freedom of speech is being taken away. And I just can't help but go back to, no, it is not, because you still have the right to say whatever it is that you want to say. You can say it in the street. You can say it on social media till they ban you. Then you can go to a different platform. You can go to Parler. You can go to this one. You can go to that one. There's a million of them now. You can find another place to say it. The government is not censoring you, so to speak, to the degree to which when people are talking about cancel culture, that is not the government canceling you. It's not the government. That is your neighbors. That is your community. That is other people. And that is just called being held accountable.
All right. So here, back to the government being able to reach into private business. So if you have one person that says one thing, and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and Google and every other platform sends that out to 300 million people, versus the person who said this thing and they don't send it out to anybody. You don't think the government says...
Is that really happening though, Len?
No,
you can't say that.
But this is what's making people think that.
Yeah, but that's unfortunate, because really and truthfully, when it comes to propaganda, they're pushing all of it out. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it's all getting pushed out there, depending on what format you're on, depending on what network you're on, depending, to your point, what your algorithm, what they've deemed your interest to be, or what they've deemed your hot button items to be. So I don't think that there's like what it may look like versus what it really is. And again, that's just waking up across the board, right? And going,
it's, why are they blocking some of our videos? I mean, our whole premise is to try and find middle ground. So if we have a video that might be going left and right,
but we're contentious. Like, there are times on this couch where things get contentious. They get tight. We yell at each other. And I have repeatedly commented in the comments, like, this is just me and Lenny. Like, we leave here and we go get a drink. Like, we leave here, we go to dinner.
You.
But that's the problem, is that, again, people, to your point, there's a sensitivity across the board right now. Like, if somebody is watching what's happening between us,
pacification of America.
Yeah, but it's across the board, Len. Like, in your mind, it's one.
Listen, I'm not saying there's not right-hand people who are bitches. Just like there's, it's all across the board.
What did I tell you? Them censoring the video that you're talking about. So we got hit with to Len's point, he said it earlier, a harassment and bullying ban on one of our videos. And what did I say to you? I said, that makes me feel like a pussy. Did they think you were harassing me? Because I can hold my own with Lenny. So to anybody that feels that Len is on this couch bullying me, trust me, he is not. In fact, sometimes I think it's the other way around.
She's the bully.
I probably am.
She's the bully.
There are definitely some people that have said that in the comments or alluded to that. So I can hold my own, and that is the point of this, is that difficult conversations are exactly that. They're difficult and they're uncomfortable. They can be uncomfortable to watch. They can be uncomfortable to participate in, but they're the only way to move forward, right? They're the only way to actually get to a place where you at least have a better understanding of the person on the other side of the argument from you. Like, I sent you the article from Time Magazine that talked about how do we fix what's going on, right? And there were some like super, cerebral like academics that did a whole thing over the summer. And one guy actually, had a neighbor who apparently they have staunch opposing views. So he set a day to go for a walk. They live in New York City around Central Park. You know, he set aside 35 minutes, an hour. He meditated before he went on the walk. Like he tried to put himself in the best, you know, mental space to have a difficult conversation, right? And I think that you and I can both relate to that. Like I've said it in the comments, I use this as my place to vent because unfortunately, we can't always just go ham wherever we're at, right? Like I work for another major media company. I don't have the same ability to say what I say on this couch on the public airwaves, and that has nothing to do with the government. That has to do with my company. My company has a code of conduct. When I signed my contract with them, I agreed to follow it. So if I get on the air and I just start going ham the way I go on Len, they are well within their rights to sanction me. I signed a contract. That's not the government taking away my right to freedom of speech. That is the company I work for protecting their investment, right? Because they don't want somebody to essentially ban my radio show because they feel I'm harassing or bullying them, right? Like, and I think that that's the point of what I wanted to talk about today is that, you know, when I come in here, I use this as my space, but I have to understand it's not the government taking away my freedom of speech. That is literally a company acting in its best interest. Len, your company has a mantra, right? Your company looks for, you know, and you have multiple companies, so I'm sure some have a different target audience. You know what's going to get your people fired up. You know what your audience expects from you, right? They expect you to sit on the couch and talk about the pussification of America. You're talking about ManTFup, right? They want you to take a hard stance. They don't want you to be wishy-washy, right? But now if you had, you know, a mental health and wellness company in the sense of, you know, you're out here promoting some app that helps you be more zen, this might go in direct conflict with that. Do you see what I'm saying? So as a business owner, you protect your investment.
It might.
Right?
It might go opposite. I don't know. I again think I'm you know, I might be old school in a lot of things that I think. I might think some things are a little wacky that are going on in our country right now, but I still believe.
No, go ahead.
Yeah?
No.
I can finish.
Don't do that.
You put your finger up.
I had a thought. Like,
okay. I stopped for your thought.
If I wanted to cut you off, I would have done like you and just done it. So please finish. I was waiting for you to finish. Go ahead.
I believe people, every person has the right to do whatever they want to do and be whatever they want to be. Okay? I just have my feelings on what I think, you know, a man and a woman should be, what I think, you know, a husband and wife should be. Those are my opinions. Those are my opinions. And they don't go across. I mean, if I was selling a Zen product, it would be fine because I need to relax too. I go to a yoga class. I do different things.
Yes, but
to help
aggression
me de-stress.
and aggression and like that, there'd be I don't know that that's what you're promoting necessarily, or maybe it is on this. So maybe that was a bad example. To my point, though, you can have all the beliefs that you want, right? But if I'm watching this podcast and maybe you say something that I just don't agree with, fundamentally, it goes against my core values as a human being, I also have the right to not buy your product, right? I also have the right to comment, you know, on your TikTok videos. Those are all within my rights of free speech, right?
Absolutely.
We live in a place where accountability should be a good thing. That's all that it is. But I think that you also have a little bit of a problem with that. I don't Lenny deals very well with pushback. I don't ever want that to be misconstrued. Like, he'll take whatever I throw at him, if it's curse words, if it's yelling. Like, Len is a rock star with the bounce back. He just believes what he believes, you know? And as do I. And I think that we both take that well. And I love the fact that I can say that I have these conversations with somebody like you. So when I go into other situations, I'm like, I'm very well aware of this point of view, and I know where it comes from, and I know how staunchly many people believe the same way you do. But when you talk about the pussification of America, part of that is not liking being called out for the shit that people disagree with you on. And I say you, I'm using you as a representative of people that believe that way, right? Now when you use inappropriate, what others deem inappropriate words and they call you out on it, or they say, oh, you're a big, or they levy another word that you maybe don't like or you don't feel truly reflects who you are. That's everybody's a pussy. Everybody's it's the pussification of America. Nobody can speak their mind. And it's like, no, you're just being held accountable to what you said. I no longer have to agree with what you say. I don't have to keep my mouth shut about it. I can vocally exercise my own right to freedom of speech and disagree with you.
Yes, and that's not my clear definition of the pussification of America. Because it's not just about speech. It's about sticks and stones. It's about our kids not being athletic anymore. Not, every kid used to have to go to physical education no matter what.
Have you watched the
You skipped physical education if you had a broken limb. Other than that, you're dressing out and you're fucking doing jumping jacks. That's gone.
But again, that goes back to public education. Where did it go?
Yeah,
when we go back to talking about this, why
but
is
when
that
you talk about the pussification of America, that's a big part of it.
That comes from both sides, though. Like, how did we get
I have no problem with people understanding their feelings. I do have a problem with people not being able to deal with necessarily, someone over there, I don't like them, and it's hurting my feelings, so that can't happen anymore. That is not reality.
But there is social equity. People are powerful together. So that can't happen anymore. Like, give me an example of that can't happen anymore. Like, because you love to talk about cancel culture. That was one of the first things. When
crisscross applesauce is my favorite. That's my favorite. Can't sit Indian style anymore. That's my favorite first canceled thing. That's in my brain.
Yeah, I don't even have.
How about Halloween Charlie Brown is not going to be on TV this year?
Why?
Who the fuck knows? They canceled it.
They canceled Charlie Brown?
Really? The major networks are not playing the Charlie Brown Halloween that's played for the past 40 years. Why?
I've never even seen that Charlie Brown.
Whatever. Why? But why? But why?
Okay, but does
because
that really
somebody's
affect you? Were you going to watch
getting hurt?
Were you going to watch it?
No, I'm going to my pussification.
But
I'd let my kids watch it, and I'd want my kids to watch it, and I'd want, I want Charlie Brown to live on. Okay, he's probably 102 right now.
You realize that has nothing to do with freedom of speech.
No, but I'm just talking about the pussification of America, which you brought up, which we talked about. So that's all.
And I get that.
And yes, the freedom of speech. Yes, the government freedom of speech, First Amendment, is not being taken away the way people feel it's being taken away.
Yeah. That's I think my biggest thing.
It's private sector that's taking it away. It's my opinion that the private sector might have some influence by government to go one way or another. That's just my opinion, okay? It's not a fucking conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy. It's reality.
You see if you in who are business running the government, but across the board, I don't.
The business understand. The government is a business.
I get that.
Okay,
facts.
And if the government wants to do something,
but what does it?
Or a private business wants to do something, they're going to make an effort.
But the only things that have been canceled from that perspective are things that have literally incited violence. Like, you don't believe. We also this is the other point of it. It's like, as a global community, we'd love to talk out of both sides of our faces, right? We feel like social media is controlling the narrative, but then we also feel like social media should have more regulation, or vice versa, right? Like, we look at things, we saw what happened with Cambridge Analytica, right? We've seen what's happened with Facebook. We've seen how people can tamper and can control the narrative. And where's the government? Why is there no oversight? We've had people who actually created these platforms be like, yo, this shit is the wild, wild west out here. So how can we say that and then in the same breath say it's being controlled? Like, do you feel that social media should have some sort of social responsibility? Like, because that to me is where they
Let me ask you one question. So social media as a whole, yes, should have some responsibility. Yes, you shouldn't promote things that are against the law. Okay?
Facts. Yeah.
Against the law. Draw the line. Draw the line at against the law. Okay?
Yeah.
But if somebody came to you, Kimmy, tomorrow at your business, at your job, if your boss came to you and said, don't mention this, period, or your job is in jeopardy, you're not going to mention it. So if someone went to a major corporation and said, don't mention this stuff, or, the SEC might crawl up your ass, or the FCC might crawl up your ass, or, IRS might crawl up your ass, you're not going to mention it.
Nothing has stopped.
So don't think that the power of the government does not reach into private corporations.
I get that, but our government isn't one way or the other. Like, that's the other thing about it.
You can
There are
think
people
that. You can think that.
There are people arguing. We have people in government that are trying to take away women's rights to body autonomy. We have people in government that are trying to take people's rights to guns away. We have people in government that wouldn't mind, I don't think, having more of an autocracy than an actual democracy.
No, listen, and it's the same thing, and it's not even just social media. It's mainstream media also has the same things going on. Like I said, when I grew up, 3 news stations.
But you do
4, 7, and 10.
You do also realize
all 3 of those stations had the same fucking story, just told a little differently. Different camera angles, different, vibrance by the reporters, but it was the same fucking story.
You understand who's responsible for the change in the narrative, though. Consumers. Everything we're mad about, we have to be mad at ourselves about it. Consumerism drives all of this. So the folks who want to see the bad Democrats get it, drive that type of mainstream media. The folks who want to see the bad Republicans, the bad right wing, whatever, get it, drive the other side of it. We're responsible for all of this. You've got people bitching about the Kardashians. Stop watching E! You know what I mean? Stop buying the tabloids that have their picture on the front of it.
Yep.
Stop tuning in every time they do something. Stop tweeting and reposting, even if you're mad and you're angry about it. Oh my God, they're on here again. You're talking about it, which makes it valuable. There's more power in the people than the people would really like to admit, because then you know what? Then that makes us accountable. If we have to step back and go, shit is fucked up, and it's our fault? Nah, we want to blame everybody else. So to everybody yelling about freedom of speech, bitch, ain't nobody taking away your freedom of speech. I'm telling you that. The government is not coming for your freedom of speech. Like, your neighbors might be, the same way you're trying to control what they say. Perfect example, Tom Brady. Just this week, makes a comment in a podcast referencing, the football season to being deployed. Again, I am a huge, huge supporter of our veterans. I'm also a huge supporter of football, the NFL, all of those things. I grew up in New England. My mom calls Tom her Tom. The same people who yell for the most part about free speech on my timeline were the same ones coming for Tom Brady for that remark, right? So it's kind of like, where do you draw the line? You're yelling about free speech until somebody's free speech makes you feel a way. Then you want an apology, right? And I'm not saying he didn't need to apologize to the families of the veterans who sacrifice their time, their lives to protect his right to get on a football field and make millions of dollars on the weekends. I also don't think that he, in any way, shape, or form, believes what he does is anywhere even in the same realm of what those people experience. I think it was much more about being focused on the mission, having to separate between your family life and your football life. You know what I mean? Because I can only imagine being deployed. If you're thinking about your family, the likelihood of you missing something, of you dropping the ball because you're distracted, right? So I'm sure a lot of them get into a zone where it's like
tunnel vision.
It's focused. You're focused on the mission, right? You can't be out here worried about the 15-year-old that your daughter's dating. In that moment, right? When you're going in as a member of SEAL Team 6. Like, no, you have to compartmentalize. Does it make what he does even remotely compare? No. Absolutely not. And he did apologize. But just seeing people, and people felt very strongly about this, but a lot of the people that felt very strongly that he had crossed the line and all of these things and he needed to take back his words and it was completely unacceptable are the same ones who were defending Kanye and can't understand why Balenciaga would cut ties with this man and, all of this. And it just made me laugh because I'm like, see, because what he did didn't offend you. So now, you're attacking his freedom of speech. But Tom Brady offended you, now you want him to take it back. So like that's just my frustration with it. We're all entitled to feel however we want to feel about what people say and do. Call them out, hold them accountable, but don't yell about your right to free speech being taken away when in the very next breath, when somebody says something that offends you, you're going to try to take theirs away.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, but that's seems
what's
to
happening.
That seems to be a running theme in this country, though. It's we're all very much concerned with the things that are important to us and how things make us feel, but then we have no problem flipping the narrative when it applies on the other side. Do you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like my body, my body, my right, right? Or like my body, my choice type of deal. How quickly did we see people use that with the masks, right? Or how quickly did we see people that are, or the people who are coming for the folks fighting for abortion rights. Oh, it's only my body, my choice when it has to do with, killing a fetus. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, it's not productive, guys.
No.
It's not productive at all. If you can understand over a mask why you want body autonomy, you should be able to understand over having to raise a whole human being, right? Why a woman would want body autonomy. Correct?
Yeah.
If you want to be able to say whatever it is that you want to be able to say about social media, about the government, about the pansies, about the pussification of America, you should understand why somebody might come behind you and yell, you're a bigot, you're a this, you're a that. Like, they have the right to do it. And the beauty of this country is, guess what? We get to have all of these conversations without fear of the government coming for us.
No, we just have the fear of the wackadoos that are listening to us coming.
Well, yeah, and that's a different conversation. But here's the deal: there's a reason why companies have moral clauses, right? Like, there's a lot of CEOs that make millions and millions of dollars. A lot of them have moral clauses in the contracts that they sign. Correct? Like, if you go and cheat on your wife and get caught and it makes major headlines, you're fired and you don't get your golden parachute. Like, that's in there, right? Like, it's kind of like we have prenups for business. And a lot of people maybe don't realize that. So companies have always been concerned with their public image. It's just on another level now, right? And we're seeing it a lot and I don't know what to reference police officers or firefighters in terms of blue collar. It's not blue collar, but what is that considered? I mean, they're first responders. I don't know. But, like, we've seen a lot of them get in trouble recently, probably over, like, the last 10 years using Facebook, right? And saying very personal things that before never would have triggered anything.
We can't get first responders on the show.
Well, yeah.
Because they can't talk.
Yep.
They can't talk. They can't be themselves.
Well, because if you come in here with a certain narrative, if you're protecting a community, right, or you're supposed to protect a community, and you say something that could lead individuals in that community to question whether or not you serve equally, that's a problem, right? That's a problem for whatever branch you work for, right? Yeah. So to your point, like,
or if your chief is a Democrat and you're a Republican, that could be a problem.
There you go. I mean, but again,
doesn't have to go right to the,
not the government, That is private sector, and that's I think the bigger.
It's not really private sector.
What are you talking about?
The police department?
Yeah, but it's paid for by tax, but that's not the government. That's not the federal government coming for you, and you have an obligation to the taxpayers in that situation.
Yeah, I get it.
So, I mean, like, but again, you also.
But I think they're more scared about the politics than anything else.
Yeah, but you sign a contract also. Like, that goes against code. Like, when you decide to protect and serve, and then you make a racist statement, are you protecting and serving equally in your community?
Who's talking about racism?
No.
I'm talking about politics.
No, but this is why people have been fired. I haven't seen a whole lot politically in terms of that. I've seen people make, really ill-informed statements regarding race, especially in the wake of the George Floyd situation. I know there were a couple of individuals, that made comments, very impassioned comments, and then that led to them losing a job. But again, you signed a contract. That's not the government. That's the contract that you signed. Whether you sign the contract with the government or not, I understand your point. But you signed a contract. So it's a business deal. It's a business arrangement. You have a certain set of standards that you are set to uphold. It's like when Pepsi puts their name behind something, right? Or behind a person. There's morality clauses. So if you go, it's what we're seeing with Kanye, right? You have Balenciaga, you have Adidas, you have all of these massive billion-dollar brands that's names are synonymous with this individual. And if collectively the social equity is of a greater value than he is to the company, yeah, they're gonna cut ties with him, right? If they're going, yo, you're about to cost us $100 billion in sales because you can't just shut the fuck up.
You're making my point, Kimmy. You're making my point. If the government says it's going to cost you $100 million to defend yourself against what we're going to do.
What are you talking about? The government has nothing to do with Adidas and Balenciaga.
No, it's major companies and what they do.
No, that's social. No. No, you don't get to take the power away from the people. This is people. This is consumers.
Yes,
We're driving it.
Yes,
not the government.
I get it.
We're driving it from a business perspective.
I get that, but the point is...
But you want to make it about the government again.
No, the point is that companies will be persuaded...
By us.
By us or whoever can take their money away.
Yeah.
By whoever can take their money away.
We have that power too.
Yes, we have that power. Yes.
So it's not about...
We are the consumer. We can boycott whatever we want to boycott. Yeah. We can stop buying Adidas. We can stop buying this. Okay?
Accountability. So it's accountability.
But companies only care about the bottom dollar.
But Len, don't take the power and just in this conversation.
I'm not taking the power away from the people.
But that's what that's my point in this. So I'm not proving your point. I'm proving my own point. That we have power. We have power as consumers, we have powers as community, and in 2022, all we're doing is exercising our rights to hold people accountable. That is not the government coming for your freedom of speech. That is you literally deciding where you're going to spend your dollars and what you are and are not here for. The same amount of people that are willing to cancel Kanye's going to gain a whole new following.
Of course.
On the other side, right? Like just because the pussification of America. I'm going to follow this guy, and wherever he goes next, I'm going to buy his shoes, right? Like, so that's the game that we're playing. And that's not a very productive game, but it just, again, it goes to the power of people, like, period.
Okay.
You really want to make this about the government.
No, I want you to at least acknowledge that the government has the power,
Len,
to influence corporations. I just want you to acknowledge that.
Listen to me. I think I'm going to make you very happy when I say what I'm about to say. I don't necessarily look at it as our government that has the power. I think it's the people, to your point, that sit above the government. When we talk about the Koch brothers, when we talk about the think tanks, when we talk about the true one percenters, when we talk about the pharmaceutical industry, that wasn't the government flexing on the pharmaceutical industry. That's, to your point, that's the pharmaceutical industry going 99%, 1%, 99%. It wasn't really that they were kowtowing to the U.S. government, because if anybody's seen Dope Sick, it took them a very long time. And Purdue literally just felt the weight of that and is still making drugs. So, you know,
wow,
I mean, I think there are more powerful people that are, you know, when you talk about the puppet strings in some regard, that are then dictating what the Senate House committee decides it wants to flex on or where it wants to put its tentacles.
Yeah, so that's fine. That's fine.
But that's
if you want to go even beyond.
But that's American business controlling American government, or that's global business controlling America. Okay, but
that's
really,
the point. So that's why people feel. That's why people feel that their freedom of speech might be taken away. Okay, because they can't distinguish that this is a private company. And when a private company bans people who are consistently on this side and nobody on this side, then it becomes...
But that's not happening. That's not happening.
Okay. All right.
It's not
just... Is Facebook leaning right or left? If you really looked at Facebook, is it more left than it is right?
No.
Oh, okay. All right. That's fine.
I think that... But how would you know? Because you lean more right.
Look at just do research from other people's phones.
Other people's phones?
Yeah,
that also
because everybody
have
gets different. Everybody gets different stuff.
100%.
Everybody gets different stuff.
But the point is, I see plenty. And their comments aren't being banned, and I have plenty of people that I engage with on that platform. Not to mention, you also have Parler. You have a ton of other spaces.
Yeah,
now
no, there's
have gone. And
listen, there's stuff that's more right. There's Parler. You know, some of these other platforms might be more right.
But I'm
that
also
goes
not
without
mad
saying.
at you banning disinformation. I'm not mad at you banning, you know, insightful rhetoric. I'm not mad at you banning hateful or falsely edited
So let me
propaganda.
ask you one other question. Do you think in the 2-year situation that we had that stuff was banned as misinformation that has since come out as the right information?
Probably, yeah.
So it's, again, somebody is making that decision of what misinformation
But that's based
and
off
real
of
information
that's
is.
based off of the information that you have. I don't know. I can't. I mean, I can't.
Listen, freedom of speech in people's opinions is under attack because
not because of the government.
Yeah, okay. Not Kimmy doesn't think it's because of the government. That's fine. I might be of a little bit of an opinion that maybe they have influence. Maybe they have influence, maybe they don't. That's my opinion.
But even still, your right to social media is a privilege. Like that
yeah,
has
it's a
nothing
private
to do,
company.
But it has nothing to do with what you can and cannot say walking around the streets of South Florida.
Yeah, but it has to do who you can say it to. That's the difference.
Okay, but why?
That's the difference. It has to do with who you can say it to. I can walk out the back door of my office and scream, and nobody will fucking hear it.
Why do I need to hear what you have to say, though? That's a right. That's a that's a
You're
privilege.
Right.
We made it hundreds of years
Right.
having conversations with our friends in bars.
So then some people are more privileged than others on social media.
Some people are more privileged than others?
Yeah, if it's a privilege to be able to have people hear your social media, then some people are more privileged than others
Well, no, it's
on
a
social
privilege
media.
to have social media, period.
Yeah, and
period. Like nobody. This isn't a constitutional right. Your access.
No,
to
it's
social
not.
media.
It's
like,
not.
This is,
It's definitely not a constitutional right. Everybody needs to understand that all social media platforms are private companies.
But the press, I mean, the press gets hammered all the time. And the press is held to despite what people would love to believe, if something is proven false, there's supposed to be a retraction issued. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and there's
if
not,
you,
for the most part.
How many newspapers do you read? I subscribe to probably 5 or 6. I see retractions.
Sorry, I'm talking about
all
the news
time.
media. Sorry. I'm talking about television news.
But I mean, if they get something categorically wrong and it is proven, if my opinion just disagrees with you, or I feel that if there's science saying what I'm saying is true and there's science saying what you're saying is true, and I choose to go with this science over here, that doesn't make me wrong. You understand what I'm saying? The same way, if your media outlet chooses to go with your science, because obviously that's the beauty of science. There's conflicting information. That's the whole deal. We're responsible for that. We can't take what we're given at face value, and I don't think you ever should. You should do your own research. You should go ahead and continue to look further for more information. But just because I don't give your side of a situation doesn't make what I said categorically false or in need of a retraction.
That's fine.
Like the same way the president didn't, our former president was proven almost on a daily basis to have lied, like flat out lied, or have, pretty egregiously stretched and misconstrued quote unquote facts. I mean, he was fact checked on a daily.
Yeah.
Did he ever get up there and issue a retraction?
Nope.
Absolutely not. The government didn't lock his ass up.
No.
So that's just my biggest thing is as we run around screaming and trying to blame everybody else for things like that's not helping the conversation move in a direction either way. It's just a big fat stalemate. And you don't get frustrated with the hypocrisy. Like I'm sitting here and you're telling me about government and I'm like, what did I say to you? I said, you know what, Lynn, I'll take it one step further. I don't disagree with you that there are people even above our government, right, that are more powerful, that see a much different, bigger global picture for things. Like I won't disagree with you on that. So in terms of puppet strings and this and that, but that's still business determining that. But at the end of the day, we as people and as consumers, like there's way more of us out here, and every once in a while we get to flex our power. And that's what you're seeing, in cancel culture. Do I agree with everything or everybody that's been canceled? Absolutely not. And most people come back from a cancellation. Just, they get dragged a little bit, especially on social media. But, I'd rather know. I'd rather you exercise your right to free speech and tell me exactly who you are, especially if it has to do with business, if it has to do with an artist or an entertainer. I would rather know exactly where you stand on the things that matter most to me so that I can make an educated and informed decision as to whether or not I want to support you or anything you're affiliated with, right? So even with Kanye, would I have stopped dealing with Adidas if they didn't if they didn't cut ties with Kanye, and I'm not saying that Adidas has. I know that they're reconsidering. I don't think so. You know what I mean? Because Kanye doesn't affect me in that way, and I know Adidas is going to continue to have a global business. Balenciaga made a moral decision, it seems, right? Now, do I commend them? For sure. Does that mean I'm going out and buying $4,000 boots? Probably not. You know what I mean? And would I have not bought in $4,000 boots because they didn't make that statement? Probably not. But some people I feel that way about DaBaby. That's a rapper who said horrible things at Rolling Loud right here in Miami. I have not listened to one of his songs since. I wasn't out here, but I wasn't a big DaBaby fan anyway, But they kicked him off of certain festival lineups, so that really hit him in his wallet. And that is how people exercise, their right to hold people accountable. And to your point, dollar bills matter. So if a huge community isn't coming because of something one of your artists said, yeah, that artist is going to be off the lineup, and now everything is good. So, you can like it or not, but nobody's taking away your right to say whatever you want to say. But there could be social repercussions to your words, your thoughts, and your beliefs. And that's nothing new. People used to get burned at the stake for thinking certain things. It wasn't the government coming for free speech. It was the community. Let's hope we don't get back to that place.
Yeah.
So no, it's nothing new. This is the new quote unquote, I hate to even use that word. I'm not even going to put it out there. But all this is accountability. Do you agree or no?
Yeah, it's a lot of accountability, and it's a lot of what people are being shown. So it's fine. I think
it's fine.
You had a good point on the freedom of speech still being available, still being there, and our right to freedom of speech still being there, and that the throttling is not the government. Yeah. Okay. I'm good with it.
I love it. Listen, I'm gonna take it. Let's wrap this shit up.
I got it. We have to. We have to start having some shorter episodes so people actually watch the episode and not just the clips.
Well, yeah. Sure.
But we had a good point. I think this was a good conversation. And I think there's going to be more to it. Let's see what we get in comments, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Because I'm the only talker on the couch for sure. Anyway, listen. Appreciate you tuning into ManTFup. Like Lenny said, please leave your comments. It's much more than just the clips you see on TikTok. There are entire episodes. You can find them on YouTube, Spotify, Pandora, Apple, iHeart. We are absolutely everywhere. If you don't want to watch our beautiful faces, you can definitely just listen.
Listen in the car, listen on the way to work.
Yeah. And God knows if you live in South Florida, LA, or in many major cities, you're sitting in traffic. That will definitely get you to work, we might even help you get home.
Yep.
Some of our episodes are just that long. But we definitely appreciate you, and we will see you next time.
Like, follow, and subscribe.
There you go.
Don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe.
Lenny didn't bully or harass me, by the way.
Not today.
At all. Ever.